right. All glories to the religion of love, all glories to Mother Rytasha, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the Supreme Lord. O Lord God, please help us live out these teachings and be an example of them in the world. Jai. All right, we're picking up where we left off on Mother Rytasha's own commentary of the Religion of Love book, A Spiritual Revolution. And we're going to finish the book today. We left off right here. And again she cautioned, you are trained... Oh, and to recap, the context is Mother Rytasha is just giving initiation to a new disciple, or multiple disciples, I forget. And she's giving a talk to them. So this is the context. And again she cautioned, you are trained as teachers, but always remember, it is not enough to know the answers, you must also be the answers. The teacher is the teaching. Remember also that though many may follow you, you are only servants. Never think of yourselves as leaders of men, but simply as followers of God. On this day are you truly born anew, for by giving your life to God, you gain life eternal and abundant. But consider carefully, for the life you are choosing is very dangerous. There will be times and places where you speak this message and people will hate you for it. Your friends and even your family may desert you. You will be defamed and lied about, for surely they will try to injure and stop you. There will indeed be great danger. At other times and places, people will greet you with flowers and give you the highest seat. Great wealth and fortune will be at your command, and the people will honor you. Here indeed will be an even greater danger. And when you teach, do not worry about the opinions of society, for name and fame are like a candle in the wind, and the values of man are not always the values of God. Do not worry about building big buildings or big organizations, but build big men. For time soon destroys stone, and the experience of God is greater than any organization. Know that the things we do us. One who builds himself, and one who destroys himself. All things done with devotion to God are good, for by working with devotion, we become devotees. And at the last and most important, she counseled them. Pray always that what you do may find favor in the eyes of God. Every action you take, everything you think, and sacrifice you make, do all in remembrance of God and God alone. And love the Lord thy God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your might, and surely you will be with God, now and forever. Thus must end this book, though much more have I, Rajak Khan, seen and heard, and been witness to. Know that what is written herein is only a portion of a greater whole. Now let's hear Mother Rytasha's commentary. And again she cautioned, you are trained as teachers, but always remember, it is not enough to know the answers. You must also be the answers. The teacher is the teaching. This is key. If you've had a few classes, if you've read the books, you can probably out-talk everybody. You know philosophy, and you know it for all religions, basically. The religion of love encompasses the truths inherent in all religions. So it's about being what you are talking about, because that's what catches the other person. So it's important you have to have both. You have to know your subject, and you have to be it. And this is very simple. You just have to follow the instructions and the power of chanting the holy name. That will do everything. If you do it. Remember also that though many may follow you, you are only servants. Never think of yourselves as leaders of men, but simply as followers of God. You, in following, are naturally, by inspiring people, leaders in society. But do not think you are a leader. Remember that you are a follower of God. On this day are you truly born anew, for by giving your life to God you gain life eternal and abundant. People think, oh, the timer never started. Oh my gosh, how long has this been recording going? Oops, I gotta keep track about this. 7 minutes, okay. Ha! Oopsies. Let me adjust this timer for it. Gotta keep track. Oopsie doodle. Doo-doo-doo. Okay, now I'll start there. All right. Where was I? So, people think of spiritual life as being dry, austere, drab, serious. And yet, spiritual life is a life of joy, of fun, of abundance. It is truly the most pleasurable and truly luxurious life. Now, I'm going to add my own comment here. Mother Rytasha and her disciples, and myself too, have lived very humbly. We never had much money or much things. So, when she's saying that this life is abundant and luxurious, it doesn't mean you have abundance of stuff or you live in luxury. No, that doesn't mean if you take up spiritual life you're going to be rich and opulent. Although sometimes the Lord will bless, a fortunate devotee with opulence to use in God's service. But that doesn't mean that, by taking spiritual life I'm going to be rich materially. Although there are many who make of religion a business, who have many followers and huge, huge estates and bank accounts and whatnot. But that's not what we're talking about. And most of those people, they're not actually living out the scriptures. They're not actually being the message. They're being their own message to get their own things, usually. But when she means life luxurious and abundant, a life of joy, a life of fun, as we mentioned the other day, or last class, God will give whatever is necessary to serve Him. So if big money is necessary, if God wants you to have that big money to do some big service, then it will come. If it's not needed, then it won't come. It's not necessary. The luxury, the abundance is internal. Abundance of knowledge, abundance of love of God in your heart. Peace, control of the mind and senses. Where lasting happiness really comes from. And I'll say this, even though we've lived quite austere lives, and even though we've endured many sacrifices and hardships and austerities in our travels, in sharing this message, in the charity work amongst the poorest of the poor. Still, we've always had a roof over our head when needed. We've always had delicious vegetarian soul food in our bellies. Somehow or another, the Lord provides. The Lord grants the ability and the facility to serve Him. And it is quite fun, spiritual life, real spiritual life, when you're amongst devotees who are not seeking their own glory or seeking their own personal, selfish, material benefit, but who give selflessly out of love. To be around such people who've given their lives over to the Lord, who've surrendered everything to live out these teachings and to become akin a devotee of God, these are usually the most wonderful people you could ever come across. And my experience with the devotees has always been quite joyous. Any time I'm amongst devotees, whether they are disciples of Mother Rytasha or real devotees of any faith given by God, it's always the most wonderful time because, well, everyone's pretty real, or at least trying their best to be real. Again, trying to be the message, not just talk about it, not just profess some faith, but actually live that faith. Talking the talk and walking the walk. And they're usually the most wonderful people. Mother Rytasha's disciples, Mother Rytasha herself, are quite wonderful, joyful. I never saw Mother Rytasha sad or depressed or have a bad day. She was always joyful. Of course, she was also a grave, wise, spiritual master, of course. But she always had a wonderful, wonderful demeanor, as did all the devotees I've met, mostly. And we've had lots of great fun together. Devotional service is actually quite joyous. In the beginning of spiritual life, it can be a little bitter. It might be some hardships, taking up new practices, giving up some old things that you used to be into, the do's and don'ts, when you take up spiritual life according to the scriptures, according to the regulations of the injunctions of God. So in the beginning, it can be a little austere, but in time it grows quite sweet and sweeter still. And it gets better and better. Material life is quite the opposite. Material life in the beginning is quite sweet. You enjoy this, you enjoy that new partner, you enjoy that new bank account, you enjoy that new thing, that new toy, that new car. You're enjoying these things for a while, and then eventually that joy, that happiness you got, it runs out. And material life eventually gets quite bitter. And people, when they get in their older age, they look back on their youth and, oh, I miss the good old days. Oh, I miss how things used to be. Things were so wonderful then, right? But how was it wonderful for them? Just because they had a higher level of enjoyment when they had a youthful body? Level of material enjoyment? So people in material life, they get worse when they get older. They become invalid. They become diseased. Their bodies start failing them. Their mind starts going. All of these things. But in spiritual life, devotees get better in time, actually. I remember once, us disciples when we were young, early 20s, when we were having a good time, playing or doing something. And Mother Rytasha, she walked by and she said, Oh, you think you're enjoying now? Wait till you're 50. Most people, they think that in coming to spiritual life, or most people, they think that when they get older, I should say, when they get older, things get worse. But for devotees, they get better. They get better over time. It's true. The more you practice, and I remember she said, all you have to do is follow the instructions of your spiritual master, follow the instructions, the injunctions of the scriptures, and by the power of chanting the holy name, these teachings, these truths, will become manifest in you. You will start to realize these teachings. You'll start to experience this love of God spoken of in the scriptures. It ain't just theory. It ain't just philosophy. It's a science. It is a spiritual science. If you do A and B, you get C. And the more you practice and live out these teachings, the more these realizations become manifest within the heart, and you feel more joy, more peace, more love. In the beginning, we take up the regulative principles of spiritual life, the do's and don'ts, and chanting daily and all these practices, they become somewhat of a daily grind. You're just grinding. I've experienced this. I've experienced the grind. You're just trying to get through it. And then once your chanting's done, okay, now you're on with the day. Like it was something to get through. But Mother Rytasha said, eventually you come to a point where you finish chanting your daily rounds and you don't want to stop chanting because you get great joy out of it, great love. And devotees, we get better and better. We ripen with age. So I'm very much looking forward to older age because I know if I keep practicing, if I keep living out these teachings, I'll get to experience more and more of this love within my heart. So devotees get better and better. They don't get worse. For spiritual life, your golden days are still yet to come. In fact, they're right now, and they're getting brighter and brighter and more glorious. Okay, I'll continue on. On this day are you truly born anew, for by giving your life to God, you gain life eternal and abundant. But consider carefully, for the life you are choosing is very dangerous. There will be times and places where you speak this message, and people will hate you for it. Your friends, and even your family, may desert you. You will be defamed and lied about, for surely they will try to injure and stop you. There will indeed be great danger. At other times and places, people will greet you with flowers and give you the highest seat. Great wealth and fortune will be at your command, and the people will honor you. Here indeed will be an even greater danger. So, when you take up this religion of love, because this is a whole new way, actually, it's not new. It's been there all the time, but man ignored it. Because God wanted us to be as one family under God. And of course, there are differences, and that's fine. It's just like in any family, But that old paradigm, that old way of thinking of us and them, my way is the only way, mine is greater, mine is newer, mine is the oldest, that is being swept aside by God, bringing this religion of love into the world. But this will threaten the powers that be. So be prepared that you put yourself in danger by standing in this truth. Now, even more dangerous than people who are so-called enemies are the people that flatter and give you the highest seat, give you flowers, because that is dangerous for your spiritual life, because it can go to your head and you begin to be puffed up. And I'll add another comment to this. This is Mother Rytasha's comments, but in my own comment, yes, this has been the case. Many people have tried to stop Mother Rytasha from sharing this simple truth of God's message. Many people have even tried to kill Mother Rytasha and her disciples. Yes, this is true. She's been under attack multiple times while in Bangladesh preaching, from terrorists, from communists, Al-Qaeda, Taliban. This is true. Both Al-Qaeda and Taliban had Mother Rytasha on their hit list, and they've came after her. But she always survived, of course. God protects his devotees. And worse than these dangers, and this happens, just by speaking the truth, just by trying to live in love, it is seen as a threat by all who twist and corrupt the message for their own ulterior motives, their own material desires, trying to get money, power, influence, trying to control the people, while they try to enjoy materially, enjoy their senses at the expense of God's message. Yeah, there are these people out there. Mother Rytasha said, the devotee of God who's practicing purely God's message of love is like fresh coat of white paint. Now, if you go to this old white wall in the city, and you take this fresh coat of paint and you just, with the paintbrush, do one big line, just from top to bottom of that new paint. Well, it's same color as the wall, but because it's fresh and new, and it's so bright, it makes the rest of the wall look very dirty. So just by the brightness, the purity of a devotee of God standing in this truth, it makes everyone who's abusing and corrupting this message look very dirty. And they will see that as a threat, and they'll try to snuff out and destroy a devotee of God. This is true. Many men of so-called religion are actually quite demonic in their consciousness. They don't serve God, they serve themselves. It's all an act. But, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words may never hurt me, right? So this type of threat coming from people who might wish to hurt the devotees, that's one thing, but that's not as dangerous as one who as those who try to flatter and adore and try to give great honor and respect to a devotee, to a preacher. Now, this is even more dangerous. Now, you might think, why is that dangerous? That seems nice, right? That seems to be successful. If I'm preaching the message of God and now I have great wealth and power and all these good things coming to me, we think that's a good thing, right? We think that is success. But those are the material standards of success. It's not the spiritual standards. Because what'll happen to so many, and what has happened, is that people get so puffed up. They become arrogant. They think, oh, it's because of me. I'm doing so wonderful. Oh, I'm helping all these people. Oh, I'm doing so good, da-da-da-da. And people get puffed up. They get prideful. As it says, pride cometh before the fall. So great honor, great flattery, great wealth and fortune and flowers and veneration, these are all dangerous to spiritual life. And this is what has been the fall down of many. It's corrupted the hearts and minds of preachers and devotees. And I've seen Mother Rytasha herself reject and turn down a lot of this veneration, a lot of this honor. I remember we once did a program in Dallas, Texas, with an Indian community. It was organized by Dr. Rama Rao. And he put together this big Vyasasana. It's a big special, seat that the guru sits on, right? It's like a high seat, big cushion, looks very lovely and, almost like a little throne. Mother Rytasha walked in the room, and her first time seeing this thing, she was like, whoa, and saw this gaudy thing, and she's like, and she wouldn't sit on it. She says, that's a chair for God. I'm fine just standing here. And he was upset, actually, and in fact, some of them were like, you're supposed to sit there, the guru sit there. But she rejected the honor. She just said, I'm just a humble servant of the servants of God to share this message. And she always kept herself very humble. very meek, very gentle, and refused honors as much as she possibly could, because she did not want to get puffed up or let any of that go to her head, or even to set that example for others. Continuing on. And when you teach, do not worry about the opinions of society, for name and fame are like a candle in the wind, and the values of man are not always the values of God. This is what it means to stand in the truth. We stand and stay in the truth no matter whether we are popular or not, whether we are successful or not. Some of the greatest spiritual personalities have not, in the eyes of others, been successful in their lives. But the truth that they brought was so powerful that we are still inspired by them thousands of years later. So the question is, can you stand in the truth when nobody likes you for it? Do not worry about building big buildings or big organizations, but build big men, for time soon destroys stone, and the experience of God is greater than any organization. This is really what it is about. It is an interior building, not an exterior building. I'll share another comment. I'll relate a story. This is a story about a great devotee named Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. And he was the founder of the Gaudiya Math. He founded 64 institutions and temples all around India, spreading God's message. He was a wonderful, powerful preacher, pure devotee of God. But in his elder years, before his passing, he started seeing that his disciples getting puffed up with the buildings and the opulence and the possessions, they started to squabble and fight over, who's going to be president of this temple, who's going to live in that temple. And they were arguing with one another, over the buildings, over who's going to be leadership of the organization when the master passes. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, he said on his deathbed, "I wish I sold the marble off the walls and just printed books." Know that the things we do us. One who builds himself, and one who destroys himself. This is very important. This is like the story of the great enlightened one who said, "If I have a piece of dirt in my hand and you don't accept it, who has it?" Some people think that in a righteous or good cause they can do terrible things, and that they don't realize that they become the terrible things. All things done with devotion to God are good, for by working with devotion, we become devotees. This is the way to do it. Whatever you do, and there is no bigger or lesser things that we do. You could be sweeping the street, cleaning the bathroom, whatever. If you are doing it with the right consciousness, in God consciousness, it becomes a holy act, because we realize that everything belongs to God, and we are the caretakers of it. And at the last and most important, she counseled them, "Pray always that what you do may find favor in the eyes of God. Every action you take, everything you think, and sacrifice you make, do all in remembrance of God and God alone." everything that we are, everything that we do, is to keep constant company with God. And what that is saying is, nothing is hidden. The idea of this is that nothing is hidden from God. So that knowing, coming to that consciousness that God is always present, and wanting to please God by our words, our actions, by this remembrance, it informs the way we live in the world. And love the Lord thy God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your might. And the important word here is all. This is what purity is. Our mind is all. What are our thoughts about? Are they about serving God? About pleasing God? Is our love completely for God 100%? And surely you will be with God now and forever. And you can see when you do your spiritual practice or when you pray, is your mind fixed on prayer and God, or does it wander? So that important word is all. Everything we do is with 100% effort for God. And of course, we're speaking of the highest ideal. In the beginning, it's a little for me and maybe a little for God. That's the beginning. And that is like having 1 foot on the bank and 1 foot on the boat. And eventually, you're going to have to either jump into the boat or stay on the land. And the boat is going toward God. Thus must end this book, though much more have I, Raja Khan, seen and heard, and been witness to. Know that what is written herein is only a portion of a greater whole. The books are a good beginning. It's when you start to practice that you come into the greater whole. And the greater whole is a revolution. And the meaning of the word revolve. You revolve around to who you truly are. Jai. Okay. So, does anyone have any questions? My wife and I were just off the grid for a couple of weeks. We just came back into cell service, so not many people showed up today. I think they forgot. I've been gone for a while. No, any questions? My wife is here. She's on the call. Do you have any questions, love? Then I guess we'll end the class early then. So I guess we're off to the farmer's market then, eh? So, all glories to Mother Rytasha, all glories to the religion of love, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to this wonderful teachings of the religion of love in this book, Spiritual Evolution, we just finished. So, next book coming up, we'll also have commentary with Mother Rytasha. I'm looking forward to it. Jai.